Boi. Come. Bashalan. In the peace. Atele. Putting crown on. Byler. Her husband. Boi Kailar. Come bride. This is a beautiful Hebrew wedding song, as if the angels in heaven are calling for the bride who has been waiting for 6,000 years to stand up bravely and put on the crown of glory for the coming King of Heaven.
Part 13. Book of Jasher, chapter 39. 1. And when the sons of Jacob went from the city of Sarton, they had gone about 200 cubits when they met the inhabitants of Tapnach coming toward them, for they went out to fight with them, because they had smitten the king of Tapnach and all his men. 2. So all that remained in the city of Tapnach came out to fight with the sons of Jacob, and they thought to retake from them the booty and the spoil which they had captured from Chazar and Sarton. 3. And the rest of the men of Tapnach fought with the sons of Jacob in that place, and the sons of Jacob smote them, and they fled before them, and they pursued them to the city of Arbelan, and they all fell before the sons of Jacob. 4. And the sons of Jacob returned and came to Tapnach, to take away the spoil of Tapnach, and when they came to Tapnach, they heard that the people of Arbelan had gone out to meet them to save the spoil of their brethren. And the sons of Jacob left 10 of their men in Tapnach to plunder the city, and they went out toward the people of Arbelan. 5. And the men of Arbelan went out with their wives to fight with the sons of Jacob, for their wives were experienced in battle, and they went out, about 400 men and women. 6. And all the sons of Jacob shouted with a loud voice, and they all ran toward the inhabitants of Arbelan, and with a great and tremendous voice. 7. And the inhabitants of Arbelan heard the noise of the shouting of the sons of Jacob, and their roaring like the noise of lions and like the roaring of the sea and its waves. 8. And fear and terror possessed their hearts on account of the sons of Jacob, and they were terribly afraid of them, and they retreated and fled before them into the city, and the sons of Jacob pursued them to the gate of the city, and they came upon them in the city. 9. And the sons of Jacob fought with them in the city, and all their women were engaged in slinging against the sons of Jacob, and the combat was very severe amongst them the whole of that day till evening. 10. And the sons of Jacob could not prevail over them, and the sons of Jacob had almost perished in that battle, and the sons of Jacob cried unto the Lord and greatly gained strength toward evening, and the sons of Jacob smote all the inhabitants of Arbelan by the edge of the sword, men, women, and little ones. 11. And also the remainder of the people who had fled from Sarton, the sons of Jacob smote them in Arbelan, and the sons of Jacob did unto Arbelan and Tapnach as they had done to Chazar and Sarton, and when the women saw that all the men were dead, they went upon the roofs of the city and smote the sons of Jacob by showering down stones like rain. 12. And the sons of Jacob hastened and came into the city and seized all the women and smote them with the edge of the sword, and the sons of Jacob captured all the spoil and booty, flocks and herds and cattle. 13. And the sons of Jacob did unto Machnaimah as they had done to Tapnach, to Chazar, and to Shiloh, and they turned from there and went away. 14. And on the 5th day the sons of Jacob heard that the people of Gash had gathered against them to battle, because they had slain their king and their captains, for there had been 14 captains in the city of Gash, and the sons of Jacob had slain them all in the first battle. 15. And the sons of Jacob that day girt on their weapons of war, and they marched to battle against the inhabitants of Gash, and in Gash there was a strong and mighty people of the Amorites, and Gash was the strongest and best fortified city of all the cities of the Amorites, and it had 3 walls. 16. And the sons of Jacob came to Gash and they found the gates of the city locked, and about 500 men standing at the top of the outermost wall, and a people numerous as the sand upon the seashore were in ambush for the sons of Jacob from without the city at the rear thereof. 17. And the sons of Jacob approached to open the gates of the city, and whilst they were drawing nigh, behold, those who were in ambush at the rear of the city came forth from their places and surrounded the sons of Jacob. 18 And the sons of Jacob were enclosed between the people of Gash, and the battle was both to their front and rear, and all the men that were upon the wall were casting from the wall upon them arrows and stones. 19 And Judah, seeing that the men of Gash were getting too heavy for them, gave a most piercing and tremendous shriek, and all the men of Gash were terrified at the voice of Judah's cry, and men fell from the wall at his powerful shriek, and all those that were from without and within the city were greatly afraid of their lives. 20 And the sons of Jacob still came nigh to break the doors of the city, when the men of Gash threw stones and arrows upon them from the top of the wall, and made them flee from the gate. 21 And the sons of Jacob returned against the men of Gash who were with them from without the city, and they smote them terribly, as striking against gourds, and they could not stand against the sons of Jacob, for fright and terror had seized them at the shriek of Judah. 22 And the sons of Jacob slew all those men who were without the city, and the sons of Jacob still drew nigh to effect an entrance into the city, and to fight under the city walls, but they could not, for all the inhabitants of Gash who remained in the city had surrounded the walls of Gash in every direction, so that the sons of Jacob were unable to approach the city to fight with them. 23 And the sons of Jacob came nigh to one corner to fight under the wall. The inhabitants of Gash threw arrows and stones upon them like showers of rain, and they fled from under the wall. 24 And the people of Gash who were upon the wall, seeing that the sons of Jacob could not prevail over them from under the wall, reproached the sons of Jacob in these words, saying, 25 What is the matter with you in the battle, that you cannot prevail? Can you then do unto the mighty city of Gash and its inhabitants as you did to the cities of the Amorites that were not so powerful? Surely to those weak ones amongst us you did those things, and slew them in the entrance of the city, for they had no strength when they were terrified at the sound of your shouting. 26 And will you now then be able to fight in this place? Surely here you will all die, and we will avenge the cause of those cities that you have laid waste. 27 And the inhabitants of Gash greatly reproached the sons of Jacob and reviled them with their gods, and continued to cast arrows and stones upon them from the wall. 28 And Judah and his brothers heard the words of the inhabitants of Gash, and their anger was greatly roused, and Judah was jealous of his God in this matter, and he called out and said, O Lord, help, send help to us and our brothers. 29 And he ran at a distance with all his might, with his drawn sword in his hand, and he sprang from the earth, and by dint of his strength, mounted the wall, and his sword fell from his hand. 30 And Judah shouted upon the wall, and all the men that were upon the wall were terrified, and some of them fell from the wall into the city and died, and those who were yet upon the wall, when they saw Judah's strength, they were greatly afraid and fled for their lives into the city for safety. 31 And some were emboldened to fight with Judah upon the wall, and they came nigh to slay him when they saw there was no sword in Judah's hand, and they thought of casting him from the wall to his brothers, and 20 men of the city came up to assist them, and they surrounded Judah, and they all shouted over him, and approached him with drawn swords, and they terrified Judah, and Judah cried out to his brothers from the wall. 32 And Jacob and his sons drew the bow from under the wall, and smote 3 of the men that were upon the top of the wall, and Judah continued to cry, and he exclaimed, O Lord, help us, O Lord, deliver us, and he cried out with a loud voice upon the wall, and the cry was heard at a great distance. 33 And after this cry he again repeated to shout, and all the men who surrounded Judah on the top of the wall were terrified, and they each threw his sword from his hand at the sound of Judah's shouting and his tremor, and fled. 34 And Judah took the swords which had fallen from their hands, and Judah fought with them and slew 20 of their men upon the wall. 35 And about 80 men and women still ascended the wall from the city, and they all surrounded Judah, and the Lord impressed the fear of Judah in their hearts, that they were unable to approach him. 36 And Jacob and all who were with him drew the bow from under the wall, and they slew 10 men upon the wall, and they fell below the wall, before Jacob and his sons. 37 And the people upon the wall, seeing that 20 of their men had fallen, they still ran toward Judah with drawn swords, but they could not approach him, for they were greatly terrified at Judah's strength. 38 And one of their mighty men, whose name was Arad, approached to strike Judah upon the head with his sword, when Judah hastily put his shield to his head, and the sword hit the shield, and it was split in two. 39 And this mighty man, after he had struck Judah, ran for his life, at the fear of Judah, and his feet slipped upon the wall, and he fell amongst the sons of Jacob who were below the wall, and the sons of Jacob smote him and slew him. 40 And Judah's head pained him from the blow of the powerful man, and Judah had nearly died from it. 41 And Judah cried out upon the wall owing to the pain produced by the blow, when Dan heard him, and his anger burned within him, and he also rose up and went at a distance and ran and sprang from the earth and mounted the wall with his wrath-excited strength. 42 And when Dan came upon the wall near unto Judah, all the men upon the wall fled, who had stood against Judah, and they went up to the second wall, and they threw arrows and stones upon Dan and Judah from the second wall, and endeavored to drive them from the wall. 43 And the arrows and stones struck Dan and Judah, and they had nearly been killed upon the wall, and wherever Dan and Judah fled from the wall, they were attacked with arrows and stones from the second wall. 44 And Jacob and his sons were still at the entrance of the city below the first wall, and they were not able to draw their bow against the inhabitants of the city, as they could not be seen by them, being upon the second wall. 45 And Dan and Judah, when they could no longer bear the stones and arrows that fell upon them from the second wall, they both sprang upon the second wall near the people of the city, and when the people of the city who were upon the second wall saw that Dan and Judah had come to them upon the second wall, they all cried out and descended below between the walls. 46 And Jacob and his sons heard the noise of the shouting from the people of the city, and they were still at the entrance of the city, and they were anxious about Dan and Judah, who were not seen by them, they being upon the second wall. 47 And Naphtali went up with his wrath-excited might and sprang upon the first wall to see what caused the noise of shouting which they had heard in the city, and Issachar and Zebulun drew nigh to break the doors of the city, and they opened the gates of the city and came into the city. 48 And Naphtali leaped from the first wall to the second, and came to assist his brothers, and the inhabitants of Gash who were upon the wall, seeing that Naphtali was the third who had come up to assist his brothers, they all fled and descended into the city, and Jacob and all his sons and all their young men came into the city to them. 49 And Judah and Dan and Naphtali descended from the wall into the city and pursued the inhabitants of the city, and Simeon and Levi were from without the city and knew not that the gate was opened, and they went up from there to the wall and came down to their brothers into the city. 50 And the inhabitants of the city had all descended into the city, and the sons of Jacob came to them in different directions, and the battle waged against them from the front and the rear, and the sons of Jacob smote them terribly, and slew about 20,000 of them, men and women. Not one of them could stand up against the sons of Jacob. 51 And the blood flowed plentifully in the city, and it was like a brook of water, and the blood flowed like a brook to the outer part of the city, and reached the desert of Bethchorin. 52 And the people of Bethchorin saw at a distance the blood flowing from the city of Gash, and about 70 men from amongst them ran to see the blood, and they came to the place where the blood was. 53 And they followed the track of the blood and came to the wall of the city of Gash, and they saw the blood issue from the city, and they heard the voice of crying from the inhabitants of Gash, for it ascended unto heaven, and the blood was continuing to flow abundantly like a brook of water. 54 And all the sons of Jacob were still smiting the inhabitants of Gash, and were engaged in slaying them till evening, about 20,000 men and women, and the people of Corinth said, Surely this is the work of the Hebrews, for they are still carrying on war in all the cities of the Amorites. 55 And those people hastened and ran to Bethchorin, and each took his weapons of war, and they cried out to all the inhabitants of Bethchorin, who also girt on their weapons of war to go and fight with the sons of Jacob. 56 And when the sons of Jacob had done smiting the inhabitants of Gash, they walked about the city to strip all the slain, and coming in the innermost part of the city and farther on they met 3 very powerful men, and there was no sword in their hand. 57 And the sons of Jacob came up to the place where they were, and the powerful men ran away, and one of them had taken Zebulun, who he saw was a young lad and of short stature, and with his might dashed him to the ground. 58 And Jacob ran to him with his sword, and Jacob smote him below his loins with the sword, and cut him in two, and the body fell upon Zebulun. 59 And the second one approached and seized Jacob to fell him to the ground, and Jacob turned to him and shouted to him, while Simeon and Levi ran and smote him on the hips with the sword and felled him to the ground. 60 And the powerful man rose up from the ground with wrath-excited might, and Judah came to him before he had gained his footing, and struck him upon the head with the sword, and his head was split and he died. 61 And the third powerful man, seeing that his companions were killed, ran from before the sons of Jacob, and the sons of Jacob pursued him in the city, and whilst the powerful man was fleeing he found one of the swords of the inhabitants of the city, and he picked it up and turned to the sons of Jacob and fought them with that sword. 62 And the powerful man ran to Judah to strike him upon the head with the sword, and there was no shield in the hand of Judah, and whilst he was aiming to strike him, Naphtali hastily took his shield and put it to Judah's head, and the sword of the powerful man hit the shield of Naphtali, and Judah escaped the sword. 63 And Simeon and Levi ran upon the powerful man with their swords and struck at him forcibly with their swords, and the two swords entered the body of the powerful man and divided it in two, lengthwise. 64 And the sons of Jacob smote the three mighty men at that time, together with all the inhabitants of Gash, and the day was about to decline. 65 And the sons of Jacob walked about Gash and took all the spoil of the city, even the little ones and women they did not suffer to live, and the sons of Jacob did unto Gash as they had done to Sarton and Shiloh. Book of Jasher, chapter 40. 1 And the sons of Jacob led away all the spoil of Gash, and went out of the city by night. 2 They were going out marching toward the castle of Bethchorin, and the inhabitants of Bethchorin were going to the castle to meet them, and on that night the sons of Jacob fought with the inhabitants of Bethchorin, in the castle of Bethchorin. 3 And all the inhabitants of Bethchorin were mighty men, one of them would not flee from before 1,000 men, and they fought on that night upon the castle, and their shouts were heard on that night from afar, and the earth quaked at their shouting. 4 And all the sons of Jacob were afraid of those men, as they were not accustomed to fight in the dark, and they were greatly confounded, and the sons of Jacob cried unto the Lord, saying, Give help to us, O Lord, deliver us, that we may not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men. 5 And the Lord hearkened to the voice of the sons of Jacob, and the Lord caused great terror and confusion to seize the people of Bethchorin, and they fought amongst themselves the one with the other in the darkness of night, and smote each other in great numbers. 6 And the sons of Jacob, knowing that the Lord had brought a spirit of perverseness amongst those men, and that they fought each man with his neighbor, went forth from among the bands of the people of Bethchorin and went as far as the descent of the castle of Bethchorin, and farther, and they tarried there securely with their young men on that night. 7 And the people of Bethchorin fought the whole night, one man with his brother, and the other with his neighbor, and they cried out in every direction upon the castle, and their cry was heard at a distance, and the whole earth shook at their voice, for they were powerful above all the people of the earth. 8 And all the inhabitants of the cities of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and all the kings of Canaan, and also those who were on the other side of the Jordan, heard the noise of the shouting on that night. 9 And they said, Surely these are the battles of the Hebrews who are fighting against the 7 cities, who came nigh unto them, and who can stand against those Hebrews? 10 And all the inhabitants of the cities of the Canaanites, and all those who were on the other side of the Jordan, were greatly afraid of the sons of Jacob, for they said, Behold, the same will be done to us as was done to those cities, for who can stand against their mighty strength? 11 And the cries of the Koranites were very great on that night, and continued to increase, and they smote each other till morning, and numbers of them were killed. 12 And the morning appeared, And all the sons of Jacob rose up at daybreak and went up to the castle, and they smote those who remained of the Koranites in a terrible manner, and they were all killed in the castle. 13 And the 6th day appeared, and all the inhabitants of Canaan saw at a distance all the people of Bethchorin lying dead in the castle of Bethchorin, and strewed about as the carcasses of lambs and goats. 14 And the sons of Jacob led all the spoil which they had captured from Gash and went to Bethchorin, and they found the city full of people like the sand of the sea, and they fought with them, and the sons of Jacob smote them there till evening time. 15 And the sons of Jacob did unto Bethchorin as they had done to Gash and Tapnach, and as they had done to Chazar, to Sarton, and to Shiloh. 16 And the sons of Jacob took with them the spoil of Bethchorin and all the spoil of the cities, and on that day they went home to Shechem. 17 And the sons of Jacob came home to the city of Shechem, and they remained without the city, and they then rested there from the war, and tarried there all night. 18 And all their servants together with all the spoil that they had taken from the cities, they left without the city, and they did not enter the city, for they said, Peradventure there may be yet more fighting against us, and they may come to besiege us in Shechem. 19 And Jacob and his sons and their servants remained on that night and the next day in the portion of the field which Jacob had purchased from Hamor for 5 shekels, and all that they had captured was with them. 20 And all the booty which the sons of Jacob had captured was in the portion of the field, immense as the sand upon the sea shore. 21 And the inhabitants of the land observed them from afar, and all the inhabitants of the land were afraid of the sons of Jacob who had done this thing, for no king from the days of old had ever done the like. 22 And the 7 kings of the Canaanites resolved to make peace with the sons of Jacob, for they were greatly afraid of their lives, on account of the sons of Jacob. 23 And on that day, being the 7th day, Japhia king of Hebron sent secretly to the king of Ai, and to the king of Gibeon, and to the king of Shalem, and to the king of Adullam, and to the king of Lachish, and to the king of Chazar, and to all the Canaanitish kings who were under their subjection, saying, 24 Go up with me, and come to me that we may go to the sons of Jacob, and I will make peace with them, and form a treaty with them, lest all your lands be destroyed by the swords of the sons of Jacob, as they did to Shechem and the cities around it, as you have heard and seen. 25 And when you come to me, do not come with many men, but let every king bring his 3 head captains, and every captain bring 3 of his officers. 26 And come all of you to Hebron, and we will go together to the sons of Jacob, and supplicate them that they shall form a treaty of peace with us. 27 And all those kings did as the king of Hebron had sent to them, for they were all under his counsel and command, and all the kings of Canaan assembled to go to the sons of Jacob, to make peace with them, and the sons of Jacob returned and went to the portion of the field that was in Shechem, for they did not put confidence in the kings of the land. 28 And the sons of Jacob returned and remained in the portion of the field 10 days, and no one came to make war with them. 29 And when the sons of Jacob saw that there was no appearance of war, they all assembled and went to the city of Shechem, and the sons of Jacob remained in Shechem. 30 And at the expiration of 40 days, all the kings of the Amorites assembled from all their places and came to Hebron, to Japhia, king of Hebron. 31 And the number of kings that came to Hebron, to make peace with the sons of Jacob, was 21 kings, and the number of captains that came with them was 69, and their men were 189, and all these kings and their men rested by Mount Hebron. 32 And the king of Hebron went out with his 3 captains and 9 men, and these kings resolved to go to the sons of Jacob to make peace. 33 And they said unto the king of Hebron, Go thou before us with thy men, and speak for us unto the sons of Jacob, and we will come after thee and confirm thy words. And the king of Hebron did so. 34 And the sons of Jacob heard that all the kings of Canaan had gathered together and rested in Hebron, and the sons of Jacob sent 4 of their servants as spies, saying, Go and spy these kings, and search and examine their men whether they are few or many, and if they are but few in number, number them all and come back. 35 And the servants of Jacob went secretly to these kings, and did as the sons of Jacob had commanded them. And on that day they came back to the sons of Jacob, and said unto them, We came unto those kings, and they are but few in number. And we numbered them all, and behold, they were 288 kings and men. 36 And the sons of Jacob said, They are but few in number, therefore we will not all go out to them. And in the morning the sons of Jacob rose up and chose 62 of their men, and 10 of the sons of Jacob went with them. And they girt on their weapons of war, for they said, They are coming to make war with us, for they knew not that they were coming to make peace with them. 37 And the sons of Jacob went with their servants to the gate of Shechem, toward those kings, and their father Jacob was with them. 38 And when they had come forth, behold, the king of Hebron and his 3 captains and 9 men with him were coming along the road against the sons of Jacob. And the sons of Jacob lifted up their eyes, and saw at a distance Japhia, king of Hebron, with his captains, coming toward them. And the sons of Jacob took their stand at the place of the gate of Shechem, and did not proceed. 39 And the king of Hebron continued to advance, he and his captains, until he came nigh to the sons of Jacob, and he and his captains bowed down to them to the ground. And the king of Hebron sat with his captains before Jacob and his sons. 40 And the sons of Jacob said unto him, What has befallen thee, O king of Hebron? Why hast thou come to us this day? What dost thou require from us? And the king of Hebron said unto Jacob, I beseech thee, my lord, all the kings of the Canaanites have this day come to make peace with you. 41 And the sons of Jacob heard the words of the king of Hebron, and they would not consent to his proposals, for the sons of Jacob had no faith in him, for they imagined that the king of Hebron had spoken deceitfully to them. 42 And the king of Hebron knew from the words of the sons of Jacob, that they did not believe his words. And the king of Hebron approached nearer to Jacob, and said unto him, I beseech thee, my lord, to be assured that all these kings have come to you on peaceable terms, for they have not come with all their men, neither did they bring their weapons of war with them, for they have come to seek peace from my lord and his sons. 43 And the sons of Jacob answered the king of Hebron, saying, Send thou to all these kings, and if thou speakest truth unto us, let them each come singly before us, and if they come unto us unarmed, we shall then know that they seek peace from us. 44 And Japhia, king of Hebron, sent one of his men to the kings, and they all came before the sons of Jacob, and bowed down to them to the ground. And these kings sat before Jacob and his sons, and they spoke unto them, saying, 45 We have heard all that you did unto the kings of the Amorites with your sword and exceedingly mighty arm, so that no man could stand up before you. And we were afraid of you for the sake of our lives, lest it should befall us as it did to them. 46 So we have come unto you to form a treaty of peace between us, and now therefore contract with us a covenant of peace and truth, that you will not meddle with us, inasmuch as we have not meddled with you. 47 And the sons of Jacob knew that they had really come to seek peace from them, and the sons of Jacob listened to them, and formed a covenant with them. 48 And the sons of Jacob swore unto them that they would not meddle with them, and all the kings of the Canaanites swore also to them, and the sons of Jacob made them tributary from that day forward. 49 And after this all the captains of these kings came with their men before Jacob, with presents in their hands for Jacob and his sons, and they bowed down to him to the ground. 50 And these kings then urged the sons of Jacob and begged of them to return all the spoil they had captured from the 7 cities of the Amorites, and the sons of Jacob did so, and they returned all that they had captured, the women, the little ones, the cattle, and all the spoil which they had taken, and they sent them off, and they went away each to his city. 51 And all these kings again bowed down to the sons of Jacob, and they sent or brought them many gifts in those days. And the sons of Jacob sent off these kings and their men, and they went peaceably away from them to their cities, and the sons of Jacob also returned to their home, to Shechem. 52 And there was peace from that day forward between the sons of Jacob and the kings of the Canaanites, until the children of Israel came to inherit the land of Canaan. This is to mention that Jacob's 10 sons led hundreds of servants to defeat hundreds of thousands of Canaanite troops. This was more intensified than Abraham's army of 318 people who killed hundreds of thousands of 4 kings. Abraham attacked the enemy camp in the dark night, and the enemies killed each other, and finally suffered such a disastrous defeat. And the house of Israel was fought one after the other. Why did God arrange for both Abraham and Jacob to face dozens of times more powerful enemies? In fact, it was a rehearsal for the Great War of Armageddon, the biggest war in the 6,000 years human history. But where is this little Joseph? Hiding among the women, Jacob knew that Joseph had a bigger mission than this fighting, and was reluctant to let him take the risk. Then you little Joseph should be good and keep yourself quiet. But the Holy Spirit, the Spirit that led Joseph, did not do this, but gave him several dreams in a row, letting him boast of the glory he had not yet obtained in front of his brave brothers, and even more wanted to be their king. This annoyed his brothers. They decided to teach a lesson to this little guy who didn't know how high the sky is and how thick the earth ground is. Joseph was gentle and graceful, unlike his brothers, who were strong like lions, so he wanted to be their king. No way. Next, we skip over to what happened after Joseph was sold and Jacob heard that Joseph was gone. That's what we're going to talk about in our next book. Joseph was lost, Jacob was in tears and turned to stone in despair. Isaac's comfort was useless, and the she-wolf was finding her son with the same disaster. The 14th part of Jacob's story is also the lowest moment of Jacob's family. For 22 years, it was spent in despair and sorrow. Thank you for listening to the Enoch Talk Show. See you next time.